Welcome to Think It So, the podcast that reminds us that what we think, we become, and what we speak, we create. I'm Robinette, and today we're talking about universal laws, specifically the power of thinking. But before we begin, I want to take a moment to speak to the world we're waking up in. You may or may not be tuned in to the latest political movements. It's a lot. So if you're not, it's okay. But as conscious creators, we can't ignore the energy in the air. It's part of what shapes what we're creating. So let's bring some light to it. We are witnessing efforts like Project 2025 that are more than just political strategy. They are attempts to rewrite history, to erase progress, and to reassert control over the minds, bodies, freedoms, and futures of melanated communities. And in times like these, it can feel like the system is too big to change, like our individual power isn't enough. But I want you to know that's just an illusion, because reclaiming your mind, your right to think freely, to define yourself, to choose your focus, is not just a personal development tool. It's an act of power. It's how we disrupt the programming meant to keep us oppressed. It's how we reclaim our future from those trying to write us out of it. You see, our power to think is our power to create. It's one of our greatest superpowers. And we can no longer allow it to be stolen from us through false teachings, artificial intelligence, and digital distractions. But most importantly, we must stop thinking of ourselves as just human beings. We are so much more than that. And guess what? Those working to control and oppress us, they already know our true power. It's we who have forgotten. And now it's time to remember. It's time to lift the veil. So let's get into it. For years, I've been searching for a deeper truth, not just about life, but about who we truly are, who I truly am. I wanted to know, is it really possible to tap into something higher, something greater, something more? Is there something higher, something greater, or something more? See, I was asking these questions because I didn't yet know my own power. No one had ever introduced me to it. Not in a way that felt real, not in a way that reached in my soul. I didn't know I already had the ability to create a life that I wanted to live. I had no idea the power I was carrying around every single day. And I wasn't looking for surface level answers. No, I wanted something that rang true in my soul, something I could feel in my spirit and know that I know that I know that this feels real to me. I didn't want to just believe, I wanted to remember. Because what never really felt like truth to me were the teachings passed down through generations of bondage. Teachings our enslaved ancestors were forced to adopt under threat of death, pain, and silence. Teachings designed to strip them and us of our power. And those same teachings are still keeping us in chains today. I needed answers that didn't just tell me what I had to believe, but showed me how to wake up to what's already within me. How to work with it, how to trust it, and how to master it. So I studied, I researched, I read the books, I watched the documentaries, I listened to the elders and the revolutionaries. I dug deep into the science, metaphysical, and spiritual texts. But when I got quiet enough, I began to hear truth for myself. And now I'm here to share what I discovered to be true for me, in hopes that it helps someone else discover what's true for them. You see, I believe the answer lies in understanding universal laws, the natural principles that govern life, much like gravity governs the physical world. These laws are always in motion. They don't ask permission. Whether we're aware of them or not, they're shaping our experiences, our outcomes, and ultimately our reality. The truth is, universal laws work the same for all of us. But real transformation only happens when we stop working against them and start aligning with them. So today we're going to begin with the law of mind, or the law of thinking, because our thoughts are so much more powerful than we realize. See, our minds are like radio stations that never stop broadcasting, sending out around 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. A day. That sounds wild. But here's the part that really matters. About 90 to 95% of those thoughts are the same ones we had yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. It's like we've got an automatic loop playing in the background, a mental playlist that's stuck on repeat. And if we're not conscious, those thoughts start to shape what we believe, how we feel, and what we expect from life. Let's think of the brain like a garden, a big garden, and every thought is a seed. And the more we think a certain thought, the more we water that seed. And soon it grows into a strong leafy plant. And if we keep watering it, if we keep thinking that thought long enough, it turns into a vine that takes over the entire garden. That's how habits and mental patterns are formed. And here's the thing. The media knows this. Political messaging knows this. They know that if they repeat something enough times, even if it's false, even if it's a lie, that people will eventually believe it. I mean, how many times have we heard the words waste, fraud, and abuse in the last 6 months? How many times did we hear the election was stolen between 2020 and 2024? See, it's not about accuracy. It's about frequency, because repetition creates belief, and belief shapes reality. That's why reclaiming your own thoughts isn't just helpful, it's essential. If we don't choose what's playing on our mental playlist, someone else will. And over time, those repeated thoughts, whether chosen or not, begin to shape the architecture of the brain itself. See, science calls this neuroplasticity. It's the brain's ability to rewire itself based on what we consistently think, feel, and focus on. So if we constantly think, I'm not good enough, that thought doesn't just pass through. It carves a trail in the brain, like walking the same path through tall grass every day. Eventually, the grass wears down and the path becomes automatic. And before we know it, that belief becomes a default setting. But here's the good news. We are never stuck with the wiring we've inherited or absorbed. We can step off the old trail and begin to create a new one that says, I am capable, I am worthy, I deserve better. And it may feel unfamiliar at first, but the more we walk that new path, the clearer, stronger, and more natural it becomes. Because our thoughts don't just live in our heads. They shape how our brains function, how we feel, the decisions we make, and ultimately, how we experience the world around us. And this isn't just about self-doubt or personal insecurity. We've all been conditioned, some of us for generations, to believe things that simply aren't true. Messages passed down like tradition, repeated until they became facts, even though they were rooted in fear. in control, and in survival. And they were never true. Things like only people born into wealth can ever be wealthy, or you were born a sinner, or one race of people is superior to another, or suffering is noble and abundance is sinful, or God is outside of you, watching and judging everything you do, or money is evil. Or how about this? You're not smart unless you get A's and B's in school. These are not universal truths. These are stories made up by man. We all know C's and D's still get degrees, the same degrees as A's and B's. These stories continue to be passed down through generations, through religion, through school systems, through the media, and even through our loved ones. But they're stories designed to keep us in line, to keep us small, to keep us dependent on outside approval and outside systems and outside authority. Anything to keep us from knowing our own inner power. But once we see them as false, we can question them. And once we question them, we can begin to evaluate and replace them with something that's actually true for us. Money has been one of the deepest areas of conditioning in my life. See, I didn't grow up understanding how to manage money. I grew up around survival, where everyone I knew was just trying to make it to the end of the month. Conversations about lack were normal. Stress over bills was expected. So without realizing it, I absorbed those beliefs and I carried them with me into adulthood. And for years, I believed that I was just bad with money. Every month, I'd overspend, I'd feel anxious about my bank account, and think the same thoughts and speak the same words over and over again. I'm broke. I can't afford it. That costs too much. It didn't feel like negative thinking. It just felt like the truth. But it wasn't the truth. It was programming. Programming I had inherited. And here's the thing. Money is one of the most deeply conditioned topics in melanated communities. It's tied to survival, to shame, to scarcity, to the long history of systemic oppression that told us we don't have enough, we'll never have enough, and we have to work twice as hard for half as much. So when I tell this story, I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about us. And while I didn't change overnight, there was a miracle moment for me. A moment when someone who cared for me said something that planted a seed. You have got to stop thinking and saying you're broke all the time. Because if you keep thinking it and if you keep speaking it, you will keep being it. And at first I brushed it off, but something about it stuck. So eventually I asked myself, why do I think this? And why do I say this? And what if I stopped? So I decided to try it. And I replaced those words and I started saying, I'm learning how to manage money. Money comes to me in avalanches of abundance and I manage it well. And I still say those things today, even though it felt weird at first. It even felt fake. But I wrote it down. I put it on sticky notes. I stuck them to my bathroom mirror. I taped the note to the back of my debit card so I'd see it before I spent any money. And slowly something shifted. I started feeling less afraid to check my account. I started feeling more curious than ashamed. And then resources started showing up. A course on budgeting was made available to me, a free financial literacy class, a book on money mindset that had been sitting on my shelf for years that I had forgotten about. And I didn't go searching for these things. They appeared because my thoughts had changed. And once my dominant thought shifted, the law began to respond. A year later, I had paid off my debts and I had made my first independent investment. And not because I made more money, but because I made a different choice about what I believed about money. See, money doesn't control me now. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't define me. Because I reclaimed the one thing that truly does shape everything: my mind, my thoughts. The thoughts I think, the words I speak, and what I believe to be true about me and about you. That we're not just people thinking random thoughts. We are creators. We are living expressions of divine intelligence, wired with intention, directly connected to the same force that builds stars and keeps the sun in the sky, that breathes life into everything. That same creative energy flows through us, and our thoughts are how we shape what that power becomes in our lives. And every time we choose a better thought, we are rewiring our brains. We're changing the story we live by. And the more we do that, the more we'll see our outer world begin to match our newly empowered inner world. The law of mind, or the law of thinking, teaches that everything begins in thought. Even the chair that I'm sitting on was once a thought in someone's mind before it became a physical matter in this life experience. What we hold in our consciousness becomes what we experience. Thoughts are energy, and energy moves into form. When we repeat a thought with emotion and focus, we begin to attract the people, the circumstances, and the opportunities that match that thought. And no, this isn't magic. It's alignment. It's nature doing what it always does, responding to pattern and vibration. And the universe is always, always, always responding to the patterns that we create. I want to offer you a few action steps to help you begin your journey of transformation. Begin by noticing your thoughts. Now, this is going to require you to get quiet and still, to turn off the cell phone, the TV, and even the people. You don't have to sit in long meditation, but you do need to do something that will help you focus your attention so you can notice the thoughts that are moving through your mind. For me, it's coloring. I sit down and color for hours, and I can notice what thoughts are moving through my mind. Sometimes I even choose color by number so I don't have to think about what color to use. And then keep a journal of the thoughts that are constantly repeating themselves so that you can decide whether they serve your good or not. And if not, you can replace them. And identify limiting beliefs. Ask yourself, what do I really believe about this or that? Like I did about money. And ask also, how does this make me feel? Because if something makes you feel guilty or ashamed or embarrassed or less than, those are thoughts and beliefs that you really want to examine and come to understand where they come from, and work on releasing them and replacing them with thoughts and beliefs that empower and uplift you. And you will come to realize that some of what you believed was passed down from generations who didn't really question what they were told. And those things no longer serve us today. So it's okay to let them go. It's okay to believe something different than your parents believed. It's how we change the narrative for the next generation. And then choose better thoughts. When a negative thought appears, gently replace it with something more empowering. But don't beat yourself up because now you notice these negative thoughts are going through your mind. I mean, you are working on a lifetime of programming that must be acknowledged, examined, released, and replaced. So give yourself some grace, lots of it. And practice gratitude. Write down 3 things each day that you're grateful for. This one thing can change everything, because the magnetic energy of gratitude will attract more of what you're grateful for. And if you'd like a printable checklist to help you practice these steps each day, I created one just for you. Just follow the link in the description. Listen, by mastering our minds, we begin to master our lives. The thoughts we plant today become the harvest of our tomorrow. So be mindful of what you allow to take root. There are those who already understand how this works, and they're counting on you to never discover it for yourself. But you weren't meant to stay asleep. You were born to remember. And once you do, everything changes. Every single day, we are given a choice, a sacred opportunity to become more intentional, to choose which thoughts we water and which ones we dig up at the root. That's how the shift begins. Not by changing everything overnight, but by choosing one thought and then another and then another. Because our power lives in our ability to think, to imagine, and to create. And if our thoughts are where our power lives, then protecting our mind is protecting our legacy. We are not powerless in the face of injustice, just like our ancestors were not. We are not small in the face of systemic control. We are not separate from the force that created this whole entire universe. We are expressions of that force. And yes, those working to divide, erase, and silence us, they know that. That's why the programming is so loud. That's why the distractions are so endless. But like our ancestors, we're still here. And just like them, we will continue to rise. And we'll do it together with intention, with clarity, with vision. So choose your thoughts wisely, because what you think you become, and who you become shapes the world we all live in. See, your mind doesn't learn by logic, it learns by repetition. So keep telling yourself who you are until it has no choice but to believe you. That's the strategy they use to program all of us, and now we're going to use it for ourselves. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone else who's ready to remember who they are. Like the video, please, and follow the channel. And keep showing up for yourself, because the more of us who awaken, the stronger we all become. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment and share your reflections, or just say, I'm remembering. And until next time, remember that your mind is sacred. You must protect it. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-mastery and spiritual awakening. If today's episode resonated with you, take a moment to reflect and, more importantly, apply what you've learned. Transformation begins with action. Remember, you are the thinker of the thought, the feeler of the feeling, and the creator of your own world. If you're ready to dive deeper, subscribe to the podcast and share it with someone who's ready to remember their power. You can also follow me on YouTube at a place called Love 1111 for more insight and inspiration. Until next time, stay aligned, stay aware, and stay committed to the power within you. I'm Robinette, and this is Think It So, because what we think, we become.